When he awoke Monday morning, it wasn't just another school day. In 2013, Andy Williams reflected on that day, March 5th, 2001. He told a reporter, quote, "I got up and accepted that today I'm going to die. I'm glad it's over. I showered, I looked in the mirror. I got the key and opened the gun cabinet. I got out the pistol. I got the .22 caliber bullets. I put the pistol and all the bullets in my backpack and went out to the bus stop," end quote. This is the case of the Santana High School shooting. Welcome, this is California Crime with Amy Jean. I'm your host out of California, Amy Jean. On this podcast, we will be covering 2 crime stories bi-weekly. Earlier, I gave you an alarming confession from a killer. Now, I'm going to take you to the beginning of this story. Randy Michael Gordon was born May 3rd, 1983, in San Diego, California. Randy's mother, who was 16 at the time of his birth, stated they were best friends because they grew up together. He had 2 siblings, was a long-distance runner, captain of the track team, and loved to bowl. Friends stated that he never had anything bad to say about anyone, was cheerful, smart with a B average, followed politics, and enjoyed Tom Clancy novels. The senior volunteered with the Civil Air Patrol, putting on shows, and dreamed of being an FBI agent. His family was proud and excited about him enlisting in the Navy, where he signed up to be a cryptologist. Basic training was to start July 17th, 2001. Brian Macagba Secor was born April 3rd, 1986, in San Bernardino, California. Brian was described as a skateboarder who loved basketball and helping his mother raise 2 younger siblings. He enjoyed the Lakers, loved animals, and would watch The Crocodile Hunter with Steve Irwin. His friends said he loved doing stunts on his bicycle and wanted to be a stuntman. Brian was 1 month away from turning 15 and was looking forward to obtaining his driver's permit. Monday, March 5th, 2001, Charles Andrew Williams, who went by Andy, didn't get much sleep the night before. His last thought before falling asleep was, quote, "This is it." Shortly after 9 a.m., Williams stated in a newspaper a decade later that he remembers taking his backpack into a bathroom stall and closing the door. He nervously loaded a pistol. He opened the door and saw at the urinals freshman Brian Secor, 14, and another student. He didn't want to shoot anyone who knew, so he closed the door. He stated, quote, "I felt like, dude, you either got to go through with it or not, but you got to make a decision. And I was, all right, I'm going to do it," end quote. He opened the stall door again, with both boys still there. Williams added, quote, "So I shut the door again, and I thought, dude, what are you doing?" And I thought, I don't have it in me to hurt nobody. And then, for whatever reason, I was like, I'm going to open this door again, and if they're not there, I'll pull the trigger. When I opened up, I didn't see a tall dude in front of me, so I pulled the trigger. I didn't know it was Brian, end quote. Williams admits that he shot Brian about 2 feet away from his head. When asked what was going through his mind, Williams responded, quote, "Nothing." Williams continues, quote, "I swung around and I shot Trevor. I think it hit him in the neck. He fell, and after about 10 to 15 seconds, he asked me why I did it. I told him to shut up," end quote. He then wounded a student teacher while those remaining in the bathroom scattered. A school security officer came in to investigate the commotion. Williams shot him 3 times. A 16-year-old junior at the time reported later that she heard noises, screams, and thought it was fake until she saw the security officer laying on the ground. Afterwards, Williams states that he reloaded and went out a little way and shot at people in the crowd, then reloaded again. One student would say, quote, "I was walking toward the bathroom and we heard all these noises. It sounded like a firecracker going off, rapidly going off, and a kid came out wearing a white shirt and a gun," end quote. Another student stated, quote, when he came back out of the bathroom, he was smiling. He was looking around and smiling with his weapon, and he fired 2 more shots and went back in, end quote. Furthermore, a student said she heard what sounded like a cap gun just after the bell rang. She saw students begin to flee. She said, quote, I saw a victim, a boy, laying on the floor, his face downward, and there was another girl standing there with blood all over her arm, end quote. A boy who was shot in the leg crawled with his arms through the hallway.
Now an emergency.
This is Santana High School and we have a gun shooting.
Police are dispatched to Santana High School, with one deputy saying he thought of Columbine when arriving on scene.
51-7, I need you to break for a 245 shooting at Santana High School.
And route code 3 and 5 are with me. Have all responding units, 87 out in the front, we'll make entry.
51-1, I'm getting reports from the kids and we have multiple shots fired. A few people have hit the ground.
Retired Sheriff's Lieutenant Christine Robbins, who was a sergeant at the time, reported that there was a sea of kids running across the street, jumping fences, trying to get off of campus. One witness told news outlets that the school was chaotic as people were running and tripping over each other, backpacks flying. The school evacuated to a shopping center across the street. The official protocol at the time was for officers to wait for SWAT to arrive on scene. Deputy Ali Perez, who was one of the first to arrive on campus, stated to 8 other deputies, quote, I don't know about the rest of you, but I can't stand by and let kids get hurt or shot while we're waiting for resources. I'm going to go in, end quote. All 8 of the deputies agreed and rushed into the line of fire.
Okay, good job, fire. I think that two shot at this point. They can't get to the victims due to crossfire. 51-7 break!
7.
Terrified students pointed police to the boys' restroom. With their weapons drawn, Deputy Perez and another sheriff's deputy, Jack Smith, confronted the shooter. They walked in on the shooter reloading his revolver. Deputy Smith identified himself and ordered him to drop his weapon, which he immediately did with a clang. The shooter was calm, kind of smiled, and said, quote, It's just me. I'm the only one, end quote. Deputy Perez handcuffed the shooter while Deputy Smith notices 2 shot students in the bathroom. One of the victims was still conscious, with a bullet wound to his neck. Deputy Smith asked, Who shot you? To which the student replied, Andy Williams shot me.
51-7, I need FDE. I need an ambulance in the schoolyard. 1 in custody.
Jeff Williams, the father of Andy Williams, stated in an interview that he was at work when he heard on TV that there was a shooting at the school and the administration was requesting parents pick up their children. When he arrived, he was directed to the shopping center across the street from the school, which was surrounded by police helicopters, media helicopters, SWAT teams, and the sheriff's department. He was afraid that his son might be one of the victims. After an hour of waiting in the parking lot, Jeff started to panic. He spotted a couple of girls who he knew lived in the apartment complex where he and his son lived. He noticed they were crying but asked them if they had seen Andy. They replied that Andy was the one who did it. Jeff stated that he could feel his heart fall down. He was alone with no one to talk to or go to, so he called his work to tell them because he didn't know what else to do. After police arrest Williams, his father Jeff waits across the street, alone in a crowd. In less than 10 minutes of Williams opening fire and terrorizing his fellow classmates, he killed 2 students, Brian in the bathroom and 17-year-old Randy Gordon in the courtyard, and wounded 13 others. While police take Williams away, the chaos is far from over. Paramedics load their ambulances with the wounded, and medical staff treat the victims coming into their hospitals. Williams spends the night at juvenile hall. The chaos also wasn't over for Jeff. Police convened on the apartment he shared with his son. Authorities removed 7 rifles, a computer, a plastic crate filled with papers and files, and about 6 bags filled with evidence from the Williams apartment. Santana was closed the following day, with counselors ready to help students and staff. Former President George W. Bush called the shooting a disgraceful act of cowardice. 3 days after the shooting, Jeff is finally able to see his son. He tells his son for the first time ever that he loves him. San Diego County is horrified. The second worst school shooting since Columbine 2 years prior has happened in its own backyard. Evil has touched them. On June 20th, 2002, Williams pleaded guilty to 2 counts of murder and 13 counts of attempted murder. On August 15th, 2002, Judge Herbert Exarchos sentenced the tearful school shooter, Charles Andy Williams, to 50 years to life in prison. During the sentencing hearing, the school shooter offered a broken apology to the courtroom. He said he wished he had never gotten out of bed on the day of the shooting. He added, quote, "It really hurts me. I'm responsible for all this stuff," end quote. Since there wasn't a trial, a lot of questions were left unanswered. Why did a 15-year-old boy become a killer? Here's Williams' backstory in an attempt to understand what makes a rampage killer. Charles Andrew Williams' parents divorced when he was 3 years old. He was raised mostly by his father, who was a single dad, hardly ever seeing his mother except for Christmas. Jeff described Williams as playful, a kind kid, the clown of the classroom, and his best friend. He remembers him as being the lead as Charlie Brown in a play. Williams, having grown up in Maryland, was considered popular. In the fall of 2000, Jeff and his son moved to Santee, a small city in San Diego County. Jeff got a new job as a lab technician for the Navy Medical Center in San Diego. The move was a difficult adjustment for Williams. He was immediately bullied at school due to his small stature and for never standing up for himself. He started to hang around a group of boys in his neighborhood, but even they taunted him. Williams fell into a deep depression, and to cope, he began drinking, smoking pot, and taking prescription painkillers. After school, Williams, accompanied by others, would hang out at a local park, smoking marijuana and drinking tequila that was shoplifted from an Albertsons grocery store across the street. Williams would come home with bruises and cuts on his body. When Jeff would ask him how he got the bruises, Williams would reply that they were from skateboarding. In an interview a decade later, Williams stated, quote, "I wish I was brave enough to tell someone what was going on with me. I wish I was courageous enough to confront everything that was happening to me. I think I was ashamed to confront my failure," end quote. Williams confided to his friends back home in Maryland. He told some friends in Santee that he was going to, quote, "pull a Columbine." For whatever reason, no one took him seriously and no one reported him. On Friday, March 2nd, 2001, Jeff drove Williams to school to speak with a counselor. He was seemingly frustrated that Williams was skipping classes and not being properly notified by the school. Williams was upset over the encounter between his dad and the counselor. He showed up to class unprepared, and the teacher called him out on it in the middle of class. Williams would later state that this incident deepened his depression. When he got out of class, he shared with his friends what happened with the teacher, even telling them, quote, "I sure wish someone would shoot her," end quote. His friends responded with laughter. On Monday, March 5th, 3 days later, Williams would pack his gun in his yellow backpack and take out his despair on the entire high school and community. After the crime, Jeff states he was perplexed by Williams' act of violence. He thought he was a good parent, rarely ever missing a soccer game. He explains that Williams wasn't transfixed by violence. He was a, quote, "silly clown." Jeff does admit that he taught Williams how to shoot. Williams told a friend that he planned to take a gun from his dad's locked cabinet. He took the key off the chain while his father slept. The gun he took was a rare German-made .22 caliber long-barrel revolver with an 8-shot capacity. In retrospect, Jeff said in an interview, quote, "I feel bad that he used my gun, one of the guns that I taught him how to shoot with," end quote. When asked if he loves his son, Jeff replied, quote, "I love him now, I loved him then, and I'm going to support him," end quote. As for the friends Williams hung around before his rampage killing, one friend died in 2008 while on parole. I wasn't able to find a cause of death or reason why he was on parole. And one was in prison in Florida for a probation violation. Another is serving time for murder after he was convicted of stabbing another boy to death at a house party a couple of years after the school shooting. At one point, he even served time at the same prison as Williams. It's evident that Williams was hanging out with a rough crowd before the murders, but he chose his friends in Santee, and as one reporter put it, became one with them. Unfortunately, it is well known that school shootings are still a significant problem for the U.S., and it doesn't seem likely the issue will be resolved anytime soon. There is more awareness regarding warning signs. There is the obvious one, like if someone mentions acting out violently, to report it, even if you think they might be joking. In 2001, San Diego-based Grammy-nominated band POD wrote the song Youth of the Nation, partially inspired by the Santana High School shooting. The opening of the song paints a scene of carnage at a high school, an image that has become all too familiar in American culture. If you've never heard of this song, I do recommend listening to it and watching the music video. It's a powerful rock song that sadly spans across multiple generations, from Gen X to Gen Alpha. As someone who is from a post-Columbine generation, having grown up with school shootings covered in the news and practicing shooting drills in school, it's unfathomable to me that this is still a real fear amongst children, parents, and staff to this day. I remember the day of the Santana shooting. I was in middle school and was called out of class because my mom came to pick me up early. Apparently, the local news in San Diego announced that there had been a shooting at a nearby campus. My mom was so spooked that she immediately pulled me out of class and took me home. A lot of other parents did the same. At the time, it was absolutely shocking that there was another school shooting happening again, and this time so close to home. In 1979, Kevin Karpiak and his brother survived a similar school shooting in San Diego County. Days after the Santana school rampage, at a memorial service for the victims, Karpiak said of the survivors, quote, "Over time, they will definitely feel better. I guess it is just something you get used to. Evil can be outdone by the good in the world," end quote. I'm not sure if the survivors have ever felt better about that day, but I do agree with the latter sentence. Thank you for listening to this podcast. We always appreciate you, our listeners. If you enjoy what you hear, please like, subscribe, or follow. Please comment if you're on YouTube or hit the send fan mail link in the show notes. I would truly love to hear from you. Thank you to Josh, our sound engineer. His knowledge and training brings these episodes to life. I'm your host, Amy Jean. Stay safe and take care.